when you have geometry nodes objects, they don't really move in the 3D viewport unless you translate them or otherwise offset them. But this is a really easy and quick technique you can use to go ahead and move your objects in the 3D viewport via using empties inside of geometry nodes. Let's jump right in. The first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and do a vertical split. Seems to be the best way to get the most visual space and working space. I'll drop in pretty much anything, doesn't matter, drop in a plane and click new. Now I'm going to be using the Node Wrangler add-on, which is something that's been around for a long time, but just make sure you have that installed and it's going to make your life so much easier. Now, what we'll go ahead and do, and just a couple little tricks here and there, I'm just going to throw in a grid, and then I'm going to split those edges, okay, and grab the scale elements here. You'll be able to bring down the individual faces here according to how much subdivision you have. So if I put this to like 25 or something like that, you could scale these down and maybe extrude them, and then get yourself a nice random value. These are very useful, and you can plug that into the offset and get something out of that. And the max min works pretty good. You can have something like that. It's kind of what I was started out with, just to show you guys. And I'll be putting this to like 3 on the size for my grid. Now all I wanted to do was put a building in the middle and be able to scale the instances, which these are not instances, but I was scaling the instances for my little building. So we can throw in cube, and what we'll do with that is we'll go ahead and join it. Go ahead and join geometry, and boom, we've got this in the middle now. But I want to control the cube and be able to move it around. As you see, everything goes with it, and if I put a transform geometry right here, I can only just kind of move it around. It's very tedious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in an empty, and you can use a plane's axis. You can use arrows, whatever you want. I really like the sphere for a lot of objects. Works nicely. I'm going to lock the workspace in, and once I've done that, I can grab, and I don't do too much programming here, so I'm always looking at my blend file, go back to the view layer, and then I've got 2 empties here. This is the sphere empty, and I want to drag the sphere empty into the scene. Now all you have to do is put your transform geometry after whatever geometry you're trying to move. It's a good location for it. I'm going to tag in the location, rotation, and scale, and that's just holding down Alt and right clicking, and you do that and it'll connect it. I'm going to set it to relative, and as you can see, I can now control this object with that empty. If I don't want to use that one, I can use the primary empty, and because it's relative and not original, it's going to be right where I want it. And so that's basically as hard as it gets. You'll be able to control your geometry. You will be able to scale it as well. Now for this example, I'm going to go ahead and throw an instance here, and I want to instance on the main geometry, so I'm going to hide that geo, and I can bring the original grid back in. Doesn't matter. This example is just fun. We've already got like the bulk here, so just going to Control J that, F2, and that is going to be something. We'll just call it transform. And I always like giving my nodes a notable color so I can kind of see them, and then turning up the label size. And this will really help revolutionize your scene, your life, everything. So you don't have to, keep screwing around with stuff and not finding it and mixing stuff up. Let's see, I want to actually clean that up, so I'm just going to remove all of that stuff. And so now I've got the split geometry. So if I grab this and Shift D it, hit Alt P to remove that and tag it in. And I'll definitely want to bring that scale down just a little bit. Go away Windows Security, don't need that. And I kind of play around with that scale and just grab some instances. Just kind of show you what I had done. I really love the raycast node, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, by selection, I'm going to throw some raycasting in here. I'm going to grab the is hit, come out and type not, because that is the logic that I want to use. And then I'm going to throw this in right here. And so the cube will be instanced on said plane. Actually, I didn't have the plane back in there. There we go. Kind of throw the plane back in, whatever. And now, I won't go into too much about this, but this is a pretty easy way to set it up and just get some quick results. I want the actual cube itself here to be the target geometry. And then in between that target geometry and the transform, I'm going to put a scale elements mode. And this is going to give us a really quick way to use raycasting to kind of push these instances out away. And now when you take the empty and you kind of move this around, you'll be able to get a quick and good result out of that, which, if you're just kind of prototyping a scene, this would work out really nicely. So from here, I always like to kind of clean things up just a little bit. I like these arrows being in here. Maybe not that one. That looks pretty good. Kind of clean everything up so it looks nice and tidy. Now, if you wanted to, you could output the X and Y over here. And let's see why we're not. There we go. And I'll lock that workspace. So now you can change the grid size, and the raycasting will procedurally change with it, which is really cool. And if you want to change the different sizes of, like anything else in here, you can do that. You can output that, like the integer vert count here. You can kind of change that and how many instances are going to be projected. And so then you'll be able to control everything in here, and it'll work out nice. The scale would be nice to output as well. And once you've got the scale out here, you'll be able to kind of change a few different things here in the geometry, and we can output this scale here. And whenever you've got something that is kind of dual like that, what you can do is we just put the raycasting scale there, and so now you'll know what you have, and you'll be able to kind of pull that in and out. Cool thing, you can actually come up here and change the logic here to and. Well, you can change it to or, and then once you grab your empty, it's going to just project those elements onto whatever geometry you have according to the size and the scale of the object that you're using for the raycasting. So that works out pretty cool. And now our raycasting scale over here is going to work in the exact opposite, and will then of course populate out. And then if you want to throw the raycasting stuff and the instances into the junction box as well, it always looks really nice. I always like doing that. And so you could just throw some kind of label on there. What is called this? Raycasting instances. There you go. And so that's about it. I appreciate you guys watching. It's just a little bit of a longer, maybe 8-9 minute video, but just to kind of explain that, and so you can have a neat little trick. Appreciate everybody watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.